Good morning. My name is Gary Woodbury. I'm the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I'm joined by the town administrator, Adam Gaudette, this morning, and we're going to give you the state of the town. Dear citizens of Spencer, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I want to offer my thanks for the ongoing interest in our town. This annual report represents major activities of the town government. As many of you are aware, 2013 proved to be a challenging year for the board, and we dealt with major crisis resulting from the Spencer East Brookfield Regional School District budget deficit. After two overrides failed in both towns, a district-wide meeting was held and a compromise was approved. Although the new account would still have a major impact on town services, it would prevent cuts to essential services. The final step in the process, as required by state law, which regrettably did not pass and resulted in the need for the State Department of Ed to come in. While the amount set by the Department of Ed resulted in an additional 120 over the amount approved at the district-wide meeting, it was still significantly lower than the number Spencer East Brookfield School District was seeking, thanks in large part to the comprehensive report submitted to the Department of Ed by our town administrator. Nevertheless, as a result of the final amended vote, difficult decisions were made, resulting in various budget reductions, including the use of funding allocated to relocate the senior center, which was used to help cover the shortfall without the need for a Proposition 2.5 override. This crisis also consumed a great deal of time and effort. In the meantime, we were unable to move forward with necessary planning and other priorities which were placed on hold while we worked towards a resolution. At this time, we are moving forward with fiscal year 15 financial planning and will analyze the budget in detail and make informed decisions in all areas. The next challenge we face, working to reduce the cost of operating the transfer station, which was a priority for 2014, our Utilities and Facilities Director presented a review of options for its future, and the board had to make a decision on how we were going to operate a service that the townspeople had asked us to continue. We held a public hearing, and on this we felt we needed to take this task off the administrator's shoulders to allow him to focus on the critical issues that will provide long-term benefits to the town, including budget deficit resolution, regionalizations, where feasible, and ongoing strategic planning. Working with the administrator, the board acted on a variety of other matters in 2013, including an intermunicipal stormwater project. As part of the Community Innovation Challenge Grant, a pilot agreement with Borrego Solar, an agricultural preservation restriction for Sibley Farm, and conservation restriction for Burncoat Pond Sanctuary, that is the green properties, as well as ongoing work on community development block grants, administered through Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for the future improvement projects consisting of housing, infrastructure, and planning, all funded through state programs. On a lighter note, the board presented the Boston Post Road to Mary Madden as Spencer's oldest resident at 99. Part of the distinction include performing the countdown to the fireworks for the Family Fun Day and serving as a Grand Marshal in the Christmas Day Parade. We are grateful to Ms. Madden, who considered this an honor and performed both jobs well. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I wish to express my sincerest thanks to the administrator and to all town employees and volunteers for helping to make Spencer a great place to live as we continue to overcome setbacks and move forward in 2014. In closing, it has been said that the town employees should be thankful they have a job. My answer to them is we should be thankful for the employees we have, and I thank them for everything they do, including the administrator. I am going to ask the administrator to go over, because the state is working on the numbers for both Chapter 70, and Adam, if you'd just like to touch on that.
Yep, sure. So the town of Spencer, we rely on three major sources of revenue for our funding for our budget, and also we rely on those monies also to pay our assessments that go to our regional school districts, both Spencer East, Brookfield, and for Bay Path. So the main sources of revenue we have is our tax levy, our state aid or local aid, and our local receipts, which is revenue that we generate from permits, fines, and fees, and excise taxes. As far as the state goes, they start their process with the release of the governor's House 1 budget in January, at the end of January. At that point, the governor proposed a level fund of state aid. We get about $2.2 million in state aid every year. It's been as high as $2.8 million going back to 2008. So we're still far away from where we were back then. We're still working back towards those levels. And so the House released their budget yesterday with a 4.9% increase, which coincides with additional revenues that have been projected from the State Executive Office of Administration and Finance. That 4.9% ends up being almost about $50,000 for us. So it's good news that the House is coming in higher than the governor with their budget. However, it's still quite a ways where we were. So the things that we've had to do over the last few years with eliminating certain positions, reducing hours, regionalizing positions and sharing, employees taking wage freezes, so those things we were able to get through it, but we're still not out of it yet, obviously. And the challenges that we have now are the assessments that we've been dealt with from the school district last year, and that we're again looking forward towards this year. Again, are just beyond our means. So I think that's kind of where this discussion's headed. And if you've been watching the Board of Selectmen meetings, the Finance Committee meetings, folks at home, you can see it's very challenging this spring, our budget, and maybe even more challenging than it was last fall.
And that's the challenges we face. And as we move forward, looking at every department's budget, looking at where we're going, we started meetings. This is being done on March 13th. Last Monday, we held a meeting where departments heads can come in. They explain their budget. They explain their needs. And I can tell you is we struggled last year, and everybody put everything on hold. And now we're to a point where I don't know where we save anymore. And that's
what I would want people to remember is last year when the state came in with their decision, and just before December 1st, they issued a decision that was essentially a compromise. The district had needs. They were requesting certain dollar amounts. Taxpayers had rejected several overrides. So when the state came in and they mandated the town pay some additional funds, we didn't have the revenues, and we certainly don't have those revenues this year carrying forward. So what we did was we made several $100,000 in cuts in December, and we also used some reserve money that was earmarked for capital projects. That money was gone and put towards the assessment that we received from Spencer East Brookfield Regional School District. So now as we look forward towards FY15, if we use that as a benchmark in terms of what the budget was issued in December, we're already $700,000 in the hole on the town side if we're obligated to maintain that level of assessment. And as you know, and looking at the school committee meetings over the last couple of weeks, the school committee recently approved a budget which is $700,000 higher than last year. It's over 80%. We're now looking at another $500,000 or more looking forward towards next year. And our 2.5% increase in their tax levy is not enough to sustain that level. It's not enough to make up what the bill that we had from last year, and doesn't make up the needs that we have on the town side. So we know that we have a major deficit looking towards the spring annual town meeting. The folks can expect overrides, ballot questions from the Board of Selectmen. It's either that or we eliminate services, and I don't think anybody has an appetite for eliminating services at this point. And when you're talking those kinds of numbers, you're talking about shutting down things, and we can't go and take 1,000 here, 1,000 there, cut pencils, cut pens, and eliminate staff. I mean, I talked about this a number of times, Gary. You look at the fire department; we have one full-time fire department, one full-time fireman in the whole department. Everybody else is on call or a stipend. You can't cut any more in that, So, and it's like that across the board with all of our departments. So. I think the folks at home can expect that the Board of Selectmen will most likely be putting an override for town services. And again, the numbers that are being requested from the school department are more than half, almost double what we get in new tax levy this year. So they can expect an override for the school department as well moving forward towards May.
And again, thank you for that information. I think it's important that the people at home take the opportunity, and if you can't be at our selectmen meeting as the departments head present their budget, you could virtually see that we run at bare bones. And Adam's right, is we have some departments only have one person, and it's a matter of where do we cut without doing away with services, and we've done that over a course of many years. And I think we just hit a point where there's nothing else to save unless virtually you start shutting down the town.
Correct.
And,
You know, this question came up at the Finance Committee the other night, and I think it came up again at Selectmen, is, you know, our department heads are constantly asked, you know, what can you do with volunteers? What can you do with grants? And we do that, and we've done that. And we can't sustain ourselves and sustain services that people have expectations for with relying on volunteers or relying on grants to fill those gaps. As everybody knows, the economy really suffered the last 5 years, so a lot of the grants went away.
Right.
They became more competitive. The dollar amounts were decreased, and grants really should be used for programs that are above and beyond your core services, not to supplement or offset the lack of funding for those services. And unfortunately, that's what we've had to do. The library, the fire department, the police department purchase equipment with and do other things with grants, which has been great. I think our folks do a great job of seeking out grants. We talked about the Community Innovation Challenge grants. We received over $500,000 to go towards our stormwater management program to offset mandates from the U.S. EPA. We have also received several $1 million now, looking over the last 3 or 4 years, in community development block grants, which is great. But again, those monies are then used to apply to programs that we don't normally have in our budget, such as housing and rehabilitation for low to moderate income folks. So we can only do so much, and if we don't get additional revenues, and I know people don't like to hear it, the economy still isn't great. We still have people losing jobs. We still have foreclosures. We still have people struggling to pay their water and sewer bills. It's not a great time to ask for funds, but we're at a breaking point. We can't do what we did in the fall. In the fall, when the decision came just prior to December 1st, we didn't have time to ask for additional revenue, so we used money in reserves. Those reserves are gone now. So the only way to maintain what we have, and as we said, what we have is bare bones. The only way to maintain that is to ask for additional revenue. And if we don't get additional revenue through a Proposition 2.5 override, we can expect the loss of certain services.
And that's the problem that we're faced with. So, and again, hopefully you watch the meetings. Hopefully you understand what's going on. The money we used last year was a one-time thing. It's not a returning revenue to the town. It's like taking money out of your bank account and trying to put back in, and it takes several years to do that. I'd like to thank everybody. Please stay informed because we're working through this process. And if you have any questions, please feel free. Call the administrator's office. He's very easy and accessible, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thanks. Appreciate your support.
Thank you very much.